convey to the rest of the country. But I'm ambivalent regarding that because ultimately, well, from my own viewpoint, it was a flawed direction. But the thing to note here is that I think after the decline of the left in the university, there was nothing to replace it. And but this goes back to what Randy was saying. Does there have to be one thing? That's the problem that the university has to confront. In order to motivate itself to take that active, secular, progressive role in society, does the university have to insist on just one idea? Or can there be a plurality within a generally secular intervention in Philippine society on the part of the university? I would personally prefer the latter, but I'm not sure really what the technology is in these matters. In terms of what the university, how the university works, what will motivate the university.
We have another question from UP Visayas. Come in, please.
Good afternoon again from UP Visayas. We have a question from Dr. Maria Luisa Mabunay, Vice Chancellor for Research and Extension. The question reads, how can the university avoid being perceived as sanctimonious as it promotes secular morality on various issues?
How can it
avoid being sanctimonious?
Sanctimonious.
As it promotes secular morality.
I guess by being what it is, critical. You will not be sanctimonious if you are critical. Nothing should be left unexamined. Don't avoid the yuck factor. That is not an acceptable reason for not thinking about difficult social topics, difficult political topics. And that's what the university should actually be doing. The liberty that the university affords in discussing any topic, even the most uncomfortable, is the insurance that you will have that genetic diversity or diversity in ideas that the country needs in order to face changing circumstances.
Okay, we're back to UP Diliman. Any questions from the floor? Yes, I see a hand raised over there. Please.
Good afternoon, Dr. Dios. I'm from the College of Education. This morning I was browsing the internet and I came across that speech. I don't know what year it was at the UP Mindanao, when the speaker asked, can the UP president, let me paraphrase that, defend the fact that 90% of our doctors are serving foreigners, or that our lawyers, the ones that we produce, are now making these laws in Congress. And I was wondering, isn't the university reneging on its role on developing the values and the morality of our students as they come here at an age, 17, 16-year-olds, where very dynamic pa yung changes, no? And they look to the university for guidance on what to do after college. Aren't we, by saying you do not meddle with the private morality, by saying that, aren't we reneging on our roles that starts when they're 17, and so are producing this kind of graduates?
I think a good place to start is exactly where you said. A secular morality can proceed from the notion of society. That's the starting point. It is supposed to hold society together. It's supposed to hold the nation together. So, in a very real sense, the value of nationalism and of the concern for one's fellow man can be a part or is an essential part of secular morality, particularly in the university. I don't think one imposes in that sense, or one intrudes in the private sphere in that sense, because it is part of the axioms, the underlying values that presuppose the existence of the university as a institution in society. So I don't regard that as inculcating the sense of a love of country, inculcating a sense of concern for one's fellow man. I don't regard that as intervening in the private sphere. You're certainly not prescribing behavior per se. It would be different if you lobbied the government and said you should prohibit all the migration of UP graduates. Then you would be imposing your own personal values, turning it into a law, just as a person who is personally convinced of the immorality of modern contraceptives turns it into a standing policy. Then you would be out of line. But educating people on possible aims that are worthwhile in society, which is the preservation of society itself and the concern for one's fellow Filipino, that is not an intervention into the private sphere. And you're perfectly within your rights in doing that.
We have a question from UP Los Baños. UP Los Baños, please come in. Professor Romel Saplaco.
Professor Dios, good afternoon, everyone. I have a question. I'm from the Department of Economics. Since secular morality advocates, the greatest happiness for all, doesn't its evolutionary nature defeat the purpose of using it as a standard for determining what is right and what's wrong?
The question is, because things evolve anyway, can you define immorality at all? Well, part of it is an evolutionary answer as well. There are some universals in the course of human evolution that have become accepted. They may be very basic, but they're always there. Do not lie, do not cheat, do not steal, do not kill. Yung mga do not covet your neighbor's wife, that's hard to enforce. I mean, it becomes a private, unless you believe the Minority Report. No? There's a movie where society takes a direct hand even in the thoughts of persons, so that when they're about to commit a crime, society is able to predict that and stop them before they do it. Then it does not become a private, depending on the, of course the movie is about how all of that can go wrong, but depending on the accuracy of that technology, its degree of, its power of prediction, then it could or could not be a private affair. But, I'm sorry, but I got involved in the movie. What was the question, man?
Evolutionary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there is that common ground. There is this, I think he's an ethnographer, Brown. He has listed so many human universals. It's a very famous list. And these are concepts and words that have been found by ethnographers to be present in all of the civilizations or small societies that they have encountered. So in a sense, there is a common ground. You cannot really say that morality as human beings perceive it can be anything you want. Simply because, even anthropologically, we came out of the same very small tribe, out of Africa. There was things are emerging now that there was actually a bottleneck in human evolution, and that therefore all of the modern populations in the world actually went through a common experience. And in that sense, there are some common well, depending on how you view it, whether you take the extreme geneticist or the culture gene coevolution viewpoint, there are certain common experiences, certain common values that can be used as the basis of morality. The only question is, and I've already said we are inherently a moral being. The real question is whether that moral sense can be an obstacle, or whether it will be an aid to society in its development. And that's the whole point I was trying to make today, that actually there is a value to actually distinguishing between the public sphere of morality, which we call secular morality, and the personal.
We have a question from UP Visayas. Come in, Professor Doreen Cortez.
We have a question from Professor Pablo Espanola of the College of Management.
Good afternoon, Professor Dios.
Good afternoon.
My question is this. The general perception is that the country is suffering from a crisis in morality. The church serves as vanguard of religious morality. As regards secular morality, should we look to our national leaders as our moral compass?
Well, my answer is, well, do I have to answer that question? But obviously, I already mentioned it in the talk. The reason that we are having to rely on religious morality is that in our own public and political life, secular morality has not succeeded. It should not have to be the church to tell government officials when they are doing wrong. It should suffice for the citizens to hold them accountable under ordinary rules and statutes. But that is not happening. What is the reason for that? My plea is that, you see, the dilemma is this. As long as you have this sectarian or religious approach to morality and use it as part of your, and use it as your criterion or measuring rod for the behavior of public officials, you have to take it lock, stock, and barrel. It will be good. It is good in the sense of holding public officials to account. That's a good role on the part of the church. On the other hand, once you have let it in that sense, you have also let it in the sense of the population policy. You've also let it in the sense of wetting. Whether or not those policies, those preferences on the part of the church regarding policy are good for the country or not. It would be better to have a separate criterion that is equally effective. The whole point of the talk is to say that it does not have to be an explicitly religious morality that is needed to hold government leaders to account. The university can and should invest in secular morality.
UP Baguio. Come in, UP Baguio.
We have a question from Dr. Niceto Poblador, a lecturer of the Institute of Management.
Hello, Noel. As always, it is a pleasure to hear you talk. Now, your presentation is patently libertarian in tone,